I think that we should raise the minimum wage so that people can provide for their families. I support the right of workers to form unions and to strike if they don't get it. And when the super rich take over too much control of the economy, I think it's the government's responsibility to ensure that wealth is distributed justly. Which, according to some people, obviously means that I'm a liberal Marxist that hates God and America, just like Pope Francis. The reality is that each of these stances comes straight from the official doctrine of the Catholic Church. Since 1891, popes have taken an active interest in promoting a just economy, explicitly defending these positions, among others. What does the Church have to say about the rights of workers, and why is it important today? This is Catholicism in Focus. For most people, there is but one reason for the economy: to make money. Preferably as much money as humanly possible. For the Catholic Church, this is a fleeting desire. While money is obviously necessary for certain things and can be a useful thing to acquire, it is always a means to greater pursuits, not the ultimate end in itself. The Second Vatican Council teaches, "In the economic and social realms too, the dignity and complete vocation of the human person and the welfare of society as a whole are to be respected and promoted. For man is the source, the center, and the purpose of all economic and social life." Having a goal to make money is fine. In the economic world, one should strive to be profitable, but as a means of promoting human flourishing, reducing poverty, providing for one's family, allowing for adequate leisure. Humanity doesn't serve the needs of the economy must serve the needs of humanity. Whatever we do must be for the benefit of human dignity, not at its expense. When money becomes the end goal, when it effectively becomes the idol of our worship, we disobey God's laws, the human person suffers, and ironically enough, the economy becomes less successful. This was seen clearly in the rise of the Industrial Revolution. The boom in the economy ultimately helped everyone in society gain more money, but at the expense of the personhood of so many workers. Conditions were dangerous. Long hours took time away from the family. Wages were pitifully small compared to the owner's profits, and workers were left with nothing to show for their labors. It was dehumanizing on many levels. Thus, beginning in 1891 with Rerum Novarum, the Church called society to reform the way it did business, to put humanity back at the center of its work. This meant paying workers a just wage. There underlies a dictate of natural justice more imperious and ancient than any bargain between man and man, namely that wages ought not to be insufficient to support a frugal and well-behaved wage earner. Workers deserve a living wage. If you can't pay employees enough to survive, then you probably shouldn't be in business. But it's more than just money. Work should not be such a tax on the laborer that it compromises one's conscience, health, or family life. The employer has a responsibility, the Church teaches, to safeguard the well-being of employees. The employer is bound to see that the worker has time for his religious duties, that he be not exposed to corrupting influences and dangerous occasions, and that he be not led away to neglect his home and family or to squander his earnings. Furthermore, the employer must never tax his workpeople beyond their strength or employ them in work unsuited to their sex and age. His great and principal duty is to give every one what is just. Safe working conditions, time for rest and leisure, work that is fulfilling and does not tear at the soul of the employee. Pope Leo XIII taught that these rights are inherent to the dignity of the worker and thus cannot be forfeited. Subsequent popes have affirmed these rights on numerous occasions, even adding a few to the list. Workers have the right to appropriate subsidies that are necessary for the subsistence of unemployed workers and their families, the right to a pension and to insurance for old age, sickness, and in case of work-related accidents, and the right to Social Security connected with maternity. When the Church says that human dignity is to be safeguarded, it's not messing around. Truly, one's work should honor and build one up, not cause pain or strife. To ensure that these rights are honored and the dignity of the laborer is maintained, the Church has long supported the right of laborers to assemble in unions. In Rerum Novarum, Pope Leo writes, "The most important of all are working men's unions, for these virtually include all the rest. History attests what excellent results were brought about by the artificers' guilds of olden times. They were the means of affording not only many advantages to the workmen, but in no small degree of promoting the advancement of art, as numerous monuments remain to bear witness. Pope Leo was by no means an outlier in teaching this, nor can we say that this teaching is merely a product of its time. Subsequent popes have reiterated this teaching in 7 additional social encyclicals over the past century, even teaching that, when necessary, these assemblies of workers have a legitimate right to strike to ensure human dignity. Although morally unacceptable if it resorts to violence or societal destruction, the Catechism of the Catholic Church affirms that recourse to a strike is morally legitimate when it cannot be avoided, or at least when it is necessary to obtain a proportionate benefit. No one is forced to work under unjust conditions. If your rights are violated, you can walk out. What's interesting about this teaching is that while workers do have the right to strike, it is actually the role of the government to intervene in the economy to ensure justice is reached. Again, Rerum Novarum initiates the teaching. This evil, which is frequent and serious, ought to be remedied by public authority, because such interruption of work inflicts damage not only on employers and upon the workers themselves, but also injures trade and commerce and the general interests of the state. Even though the Church does not support socialist or communist economies in which the government controls the means of production, it does insist that governments are not to remain entirely passive. For the sake of the common good, public leadership not only can, but must involve itself in business. And not just in regards to union disputes and strikes. No, the Church contends that in all matters of the common good, the government must exercise its power to ensure that society remains just, even when it comes to the distribution of wealth. In Redemptor Hominus, Pope John Paul II called for institutions and mechanisms that allow for the immediate redistribution of riches and control over them. In Caritas in Veritate, Pope Benedict XVI advocated for just laws and forms of redistribution governed by politics, and a worldwide redistribution of energy resources. And in the Compendium of the Social Doctrine of the Church teaches that authentic economic well-being is pursued also by means of suitable social policies for the redistribution of income. So, no, I am not a liberal Marxist that hates God in America just like Pope Francis. I'm a Catholic in communion with the long-standing tradition of the Church, just like Pope Francis. The difference between the two should be obvious. While Catholic teaching can certainly resemble socialist ideology at times, at least on the surface, the actual teachings themselves and the reason for the teaching vary greatly. At the heart of everything we do is not a material end, is not power, is not class warfare. It is the promotion of human dignity. Socialism does get some things right in its criticism of capitalism, but so too does capitalism in its criticism of socialism. In each, though, we as Catholics maintain the same criticism. The economy is about more than material gain, it is about human life. An economy that enslaves or dehumanizes humanity, no matter how rich it makes them, is not an economy we can support.